There has been an online explosion over the 20th paragraph of a very fair Washington Post profile of Mike Pence's wife, Karen, that quoted something the vice president said 15 years ago, that he never eats alone with a woman other than his wife and won't attend events featuring alcohol without her by his side. Here's one of a zillion tweets by Mother Jones editor Clara Jeffrey. If Pence won't eat dinner alone with any woman but his wife, that means he won't hire women in key spots. VP actually has a number of high-ranking women on his staff. I spoke with Fox News contributor Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist from New York. Molly Hemingway, welcome.
Great to be here.
You had a great column on this in The Federalist. Talk a little bit more about the tone and the intensity of the reaction to this recycled quote from Mike Pence.
Yeah, and it wasn't just tweets that you saw. It was also headlines. You had the National Post saying Mike Pence's evangelical refusal to lunch with ladies is easy to mock. It's also rape culture. The BBC wondered, are Mike Pence's dining habits chivalrous or sexist? Other people thought that it was an example of Sharia or other, very serious. The Vox actually wondered if it was illegal to not dine with someone who is not your wife. So it was just a large-scale
Head. Rape culture. It's freak out. That's the technical term. Now, what does it say about the media mindset about the vice president, who, with his wife, is a Christian conservative, being taunted and ridiculed for how he chooses to conduct his marriage? Is some of this aimed in part at his religion, do you think?
Right, and as you know, the original story actually was pretty respectful, but there is something of a disconnect with a lot of people not understanding how traditional religious believers live their life differently, or even a lack of tolerance for that. This isn't really that bizarre behavior for traditional Christians, Muslims, Jews. It's well known that people who believe that they need self-discipline to guard themselves against infidelity, that this is an example of a type of thing that they would do. This is a newsroom culture that is out of step with that kind of mindset, and really speaks to why it might be helpful to have more diverse attitudes in a newsroom, so that when you encounter something like this, you don't treat it like gorillas in the mist.
So let's say you're a liberal who thinks this is silly and old-fashioned. I still don't understand, why you wouldn't just let Mike Pence do whatever he wants. It's not like he's done something awful here. Rather than suggest things like, oh, he has to have this rule because he can't control himself around women.
Right. Well, not to get too serious, but it actually does get to different conceptions of the nature of man, and whether you do think that people are inherently capable of sin or not, or whether they should be able to easily overcome all temptations. It's really about a battle between a progressive mindset and a more traditional mindset that acknowledges human nature. And you're seeing it on great display right now.
You are elevating our program. We don't usually discuss the nature of man on Media Buzz, but, you say in your piece that what Mike Pence is doing is common sense, and he's trying to guard against temptation. And you talk about your own marriage, and you say, hey, temptation is a fact of life.
Yeah, that's what's also interesting is, we have so many news stories that come out because of scandal, because someone hasn't been faithful to their husband or wife. It is not news that a lot of marriages end in divorce, and that infidelity is a big motivator for a lot of that. So you would think that there would be a sort of better treatment when a politician, it is kind of weird for a politician to actually hold his marriage in such high regard, but the idea that this would be something to mock is not necessarily healthy, given how much damage is caused by marital infidelity. And we should probably have more conversations about how to be faithful and what makes a good marriage, because it's very good for men, women, and their children when people have healthy marriages.
Molly, when you're back in D.C., do you want to have dinner?
Yeah. Sounds great.
But no drinking. Molly Hemingway, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks.
And Mike Pence joked yesterday in Ohio he was sorry his wife Karen couldn't be there, but she had dinner plans.